Professor Dube, just taking that to you as we listen to Minister Mamoloko Kubai, they're reacting around the acquittal of Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotosho. It seems that the minister is reacting without tangible results. We're yet to get any feedback since the request around the acquittal, the extradition request. And, you know, we also just have been watching how that case developed, because as soon as he was let out of prison and became a free man, a second arrest occurred, and he still slipped through the fingers of law enforcement because of a technicality that botched that case. What is your response?
Thank you for having me. Indeed, there is a big problem, and that problem needs to be resolved. As it stands now, the NPA looks like it doesn't have its house in order. These issues are very technical issues. Issues of extradition and the compliance of the rules thereof are very complex. This is international law at play. Remember, we're going to a sovereign country, the US, and we are saying extradite this person to South Africa. And for us to do that, you need to make sure to tick all the boxes. The minister seems to be surprised that the authority to apply for an extradition of someone who's outside South Africa to come back to face the music in South Africa lies with the minister and not necessarily with the NPA. They ought to know this. In international law, we have a concept called full powers. In other words, whoever acts on the international plane in the space of state-to-state interactions must demonstrate that they have full powers. Where do you get these full powers? In this particular case, it would be the treaty between South Africa and the US, where it's stipulated who can approach the courts of either country to request the extradition of an individual from one country to the other. But he touched also on the Omotosho case and how after he was acquitted, he then left South Africa just like that. There was an attempt to arrest him for some other charge, but it seems like it was rushed. It seems like the NPA did not prepare its case as well as it should have, and because of that, the guy had to be let go, and that doesn't paint the NPA well in the eyes of the public. It erodes public confidence in the National Prosecuting Authority.
And it seemingly continues to erode confidence. I mean, in assessing the state of the justice cluster in South Africa and some of its glaring failures, we've seen a number of these cases botched and justice not served. What does this reveal about the state of the country's justice system?
The problems are deep and they can't be resolved overnight. We need the government to sit down and have a conversation with itself and dig deeper and ask the questions, where did we go wrong and how can we resolve it? Take the example of the recent judgment from the other day in the Free State. Not only did the NPA jump the gun by trying to obtain the attendance of the accused at a trial, and in the process bungled the treaty that South Africa has with the US. But it seems that even the obtaining of the Americans, the consent of the Americans to extradite the accused was done through fraudulent means. In other words, there were many things which were put before the American system where the accused was painted as someone who is evading arrest or evading trial in South Africa, whereas the individual had not necessarily done so. The person was presented as someone who's a flight risk. It was said that this person has connections in Kenya and so forth and so forth. And it turns out the individual had only flown through Kenya en route to another country, which we all do when we travel across the world. That does not necessarily mean we then have ties with that particular country. So in the scathing judgment that the judge delivered yesterday, he did hammer on the point that the NPA either misled or lied. Those are two words that the judge used. The words being, obtaining this through lying or misleading information. And that says to you, we are sitting with the problem where officers of the criminal justice system will actually manipulate the system in a way that they don't care what the consequences are, as long as they get the result that they want. And the result that they want, that this person must attend court in Bloemfontein. Even if they lie to the Americans, they will do so to get this person to attend.
I mean, on the other hand, South Africa's judicial system is notorious for its delays. I mean, civil cases can drag on for years on end, while criminal trials stall indefinitely, leaving ordinary people suffering the consequences of a slow-moving system that's meant to deliver justice. What does that now highlight as we look to some of the other challenges within the system?
It simply says that if we have looked at the judicial system as simply being the judges and nothing else, then we need to actually widen the net and say the criminal justice system includes your judges, your prosecutors, your investigators, and every other officer in between. This case demonstrates that there's a problem. And in this case, luckily, it was the judge that actually pointed out the bad things that the NPA did to obtain the attendance of this individual at court. But that does not take away from the fact that we need more judges. We need more judges who work exactly like this one, that handle the extradition matter, who will dig deeper and be able to apply international law and constitutional law to vindicate the rights of the accused.
So what steps should the judiciary be taking to address the backlog in the magistrates' court? It surely requires a multi-pronged approach, ensuring that these delays are not tolerated as an accepted norm.
It will take a lot, but it also requires the state to do a targeted effort at recruiting more judicial officers, capacitating those judicial officers with what we call law clerks or law researchers who will assist those judges to fast-track research around the cases that they're hearing. So the more judges we have, the better. The more law researchers we have, the better. The more we streamline the system within the courts, within the judicial system, in order to improve efficiency. We should actually be looking towards the area of AI to optimize the way we do things within the judicial system. So we need to pump more resources into that area. The government must pump more money into improving the judicial system. It can't just be, a wish that we always come together and talk about these things and not necessarily pump money into it. Because for us to have an efficient court system, we need to have functioning tools, functioning technologies, and then also just dealing with the whole work ethic within the judicial, the entire value chain of the judiciary, from the investigation side, the police side, the prosecutorial side, to the judicial officer side. We need to deal with what is the psyche of the people working there. How can we, as a country, ensure that we instill an ethos that allows for efficiency and the expediting of cases that come before those courts?
Yeah, because if one has to look at the impact of the cases and what they've left it lingers indefinitely because lives are destroyed, not because people have been necessarily found guilty, but because the process itself becomes the actual punishment. What sort of perceptions does that now leave citizens when it comes to the entire system? And the approach that needs to be taken to restore the confidence and trust. I mean, we have seen on one end, like if we look at the Olerato Mongale matter, how the officers have moved to, find the body and bring someone to book. I mean, the man has since been killed by police, but, the matter has moved quickly and we saw arrests which have brought some sense of confidence.
The speed with which the police moved in the Olerato matter is commendable. They moved swiftly. However, there are many concerning issues that transpired from that particular case. For starters, if one looks at the fellow that was taken in and already photos of him and his name and everything were circulating as a suspect, people were already condemning him, although he was still innocent until proven guilty. And it turns out he's also a victim. And now we're dealing with the aftermath of that. But the other thing with such matters is, if you look at the car that was used, it is said that the car was involved in other robberies and other crimes, and the guys were in court somewhere in April. The question is, why were they out? Why did they have the time and the opportunity to actually murder this poor girl if just 2 months ago they were appearing on another matter where violence was used, where the law was violated, but they were out with the same car that was in the police pound. The car was pounded, but now it was used to further crime. We need to ask ourselves, what is the value of, or what is the contribution of corruption to the problems we're facing right now as a country? If the car was impounded 2 months ago, but 2 months later it's used in the killing of an innocent child, surely there's something wrong with our justice system. Surely somebody was paid to release that car. Surely somebody should have proposed to pay for these people in the previous case.
Okay, thank you very much. Perhaps we're going to have to leave it there for now, but we do thank you for your time and that analysis. UNISA School of Law Acting Director, Professor Angelo Dube.